friends. Welcome to episode 52 of Pantry to Plate. I'm Kristen, the dietitian, and we are coming to you from the Kaiser Permanente Learning Kitchen at the Atlanta Community Food Bank. And as you can see, we have a special guest today. This is Chef Macario. He's actually one of our own food bankers here, and he is on our procurement team.
Yep.
So partners, if you see TFAP Foods on eHarvest, and Macario is the person who brought it to the food bank. Absolutely. And anytime that I talk about TFAP Foods in our series, it's because I talked to Macario first, and he told me what we needed to work on.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, or what's coming in. So throughout the year, I already have kind of a course schedule of any TFAP items that are already coming in. So if you all may have noticed the TFAP Catfish that was available this past Friday, then they're over top items that come out that can really make the difference and what you get, how you can kind of pair two and two together, and how you really basically put in your order. So yeah.
Exactly. Sometimes those items need a little bit of a boost, but not the catfish today. So hope you were able to stack some of that before it all disappeared. But so today, we're going to marry the two topics of Black History Month and Heart Health Month because they're both in the month of February. So Chef Macario is going to share with us his Cajun seasoning, his own special blend, and we're going to talk about how to think about salt in your diet and where it's coming from in your food. So he's going to show us his blend. We're also going to look at some sweet potato grits to pair with our blackened catfish and an oven-fried option for your catfish as well. You ready to get started?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, first things first, tell us about your seasoning blend.
Yeah, so the seasoning blend, it's a combination of 9 different spices. So essentially we have some fresh parsley, some onion powder, some garlic powder. We have a little bit of red pepper. We also have a little bit of lemon zest. If you don't have lemon zest, there is some pretty cool alternatives that you can use. If I don't have any fresh lemons to get some lemon zest, I can do some lemon pepper seasoning with no salt. It really is unique. It has a little bit of black pepper in it as well. So the house blend and a little bit of salt, because you need that touch of salt to kind of elevate whatever dish you're using it on. So I'll be showing you all today how to use it on the blackened catfish and for the oven fried as well.
Perfect. So now you might have your favorite Cajun seasoning blend already. So if you have individual spices on hand and you don't have a Cajun blend, you can use this option. But if you've got your favorite, keep it to what you know and what you love. And consider how much salt is in that store-bought blend that's your favorite. So when we're thinking about salt in our meals, it's a good idea to kind of like divide your day. So I recommend looking at the nutrition label when you're thinking about how much salt to add to your foods. So your individual ingredients may already be coming with salt. So for a store-bought Cajun seasoning blend, that's like 97% of the time going to have salt in it already. So you can take a look at the nutrition label and look at the percent daily value on the far right side of the nutrition label. That percent is going to tell you out of your entire day what percent of the salt in that item fits into your day. So you can look at it and think about, like, if I'm having one meal is out of 3 meals a day, that would be 33%, right? 1/3 of that full pie, if you will. So you can look at those percents instead of the milligrams when you're thinking about keeping it balanced.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's very important because you really want to gauge your salt intake throughout your meals. So if you know that, I'm a person that is going to be heavy in lunch and dinner, then watch the intake that you have on those 2 meals. Or if you're prepared to say, hey, okay, I know that dinner is going to be my biggest meal, Then I'm going to watch my intake for breakfast and lunch. And then for dinner, I can make it at the house, or if I conveniently need to go out and get something to eat, like takeout, typically there'll be a lot of salt content based on what you get taken out. But when you make it in-house and make it at home, you know, you get the best outcome.
And you can control how much salt you add to it versus starting with too much, like from the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna use we're calling it Max.
Yep.
Max blend.
So Max secret Cajun spice blend. You know, it's really a special blend, a blend that my family incorporated, and you know, it's a blend that's used in, you know, again, the fried or the blackened. It's really like a multi-purpose Cajun style seasoning.
Yeah, so you can just like use it in anything, right? You just need a little extra seasoning, so just use that.
You just need a little extra.
Doesn't have to be Cajun.
Doesn't have to be Cajun.
Yeah, it's all-purpose.
I sometimes will use that blend for breakfast. So if I am sauteing some peppers and some eggs, and I want to make a frittata in the morning, I'll add this seasoning blend along with, you know, maybe some chicken sausage, or, you know, pair it with some beef bacon, depending on, you know, my preference and what I want for that day. It goes on everything.
There you go. There you go. All purpose. Okay. So I'm going to show you first what we're going to pair with our fish and get it started. And then I'm going to pass it on over to Macario, and he's going to show us how to prepare the two types of catfish. So first thing is we're going to be eating our catfish with sweet potato grits. So in the past, I have shared this recipe with you before, actually, with the creator, Chef Virginia Willis. This is her recipe, and it's one of my favorites. So I wanted to share it with you again, because it's a perfect combination with our fish, and it adds a vegetable to your plate when you're not intending on the dish to like have vegetables in it, like fish and grits. Where does the vegetable land? Not really anywhere.
Not really, because I mean you're getting a lot of carbs from the grits. You have a heavy protein factor, you know, the cheese that you add in along with the fish.
Yeah.
So typically, you know, with fish and grits, there really isn't a high vegetable factor unless it's paired separately.
Exactly. So for our grits, our sweet potato grits, you have the option to use like a quick cooking grits or like a stone ground grits. So it depends on which one you have available to you. So I am using like the classic, hold on, what does it say? Old-fashioned grits today. So this one, like on its own, takes about 15 minutes in the pot on the stovetop. If you're using a stone ground grits, you can cook your sweet potatoes in the grits as the grits cook. But since we're using a quicker cooking grits, I cooked the sweet potatoes separately. So this is half of the sweet potato that I grated up with a cheese grater on the smallest hole on the cheese grater. So it makes a very fine sweet potato texture, which means it cooks quickly, but it also, when mixed into your grits, kind of looks like cheese. Yeah. So your sweet potato grits are going to look like cheese grits while you've added a vegetable to it, and the texture is there's no texture to the sweet potato.
No, the flavor is out of bounds because, again, you would think that, oh, well, will the sweet overpower it? It won't. You'll still get that same smooth, savory, you know, texture. And then when you add the sharp cheddar, then it really elevates it.
Absolutely. So you can have the sweet or savory. So Virginia wrote it with cinnamon added to it. So you get the sweetness from the sweet potato that comes inherent with the sweet potato, no added sugar. And then adding that cinnamon like balances it out. But today we're making it savory because it's got to match the beautiful savory Cajun seasoning. So what you do for these grits is you're going to first bring to a boil 1 cup of water and 1 cup of milk, your milk of choice. If that's a plant milk, if you would like to choose that, you can. I I would recommend not a sweetened plant milk unless you're going the sweet route with the grits, because that might be a little interesting if you want to make it savory.
Exactly. Yep.
So we're gonna bring our water and our milk to a boil first. Keep your eye on your pot. You don't want it to boil over. But once it starts boiling, you're going to add in your grits and you're going to whisk it until the grits are incorporated. So while your grits are cooking on the stovetop, you can grate your sweet potato, and then you can put it in a microwave safe bowl with just a little bit of water. So I like to cover my bowl with plastic wrap. It's like a steam situation in the microwave. And you're going to cook it for 5 minutes. And then you pull it out of the microwave, and then you squeeze the water out of it. And then your sweet potato is ready to go. And by the time your grits are finished cooking, because like 15 minutes there, your sweet potato will be ready. And then you stir it in, and then you stir in your cheese and some black pepper to your preference. I like a lot of black pepper in this cheddary sweet potato crisp. We're on the same page about that.
I do too. Black pepper, I feel like black pepper goes with everything, and especially with grits. So
Agreed.
I 110% agree with that. Seriously.
So I'm not going to add any salt to my grits because we made room for salt in this dish with our Cajun seasoning. So you're going to eat your very nicely seasoned fish with the grits that don't have any extra salt. And you're thinking, you're not adding any salt to the grits. Yeah. The salt is going to come from the cheese. So your cheese will add some salt without adding a lot of extra salt. And then it all comes together in each bite when you eat grits and fish together. That's the point, is balance across the meal. All right.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to get this started. I'm going to pass it on to you. The first fish you're going to make is the oven fried, right?
Oven fried.
All right, let's do it.
All right. All right, so we essentially have all of our ingredients for the oven fried. So we have yellow cornmeal, my preference. You can use just regular all-purpose flour if you want to. I like using a mix of all-purpose flour and yellow cornmeal. Depending on the serving size, you can do 1/3 of a cup, 2/3 of a cup, whatever your preference is. If you are, doing family style, then just kind of gauge your measurements based on that. That's really my preference. But the seasoning will essentially, be overtaken, both, and really pair well with, the egg and the mustard that'll be added into it as well. So essentially, you say, hey, like, where's the zest coming from? So it's coming from our fresh lemons, right? And so we have yellow mustard as well. Yellow mustard I like to apply onto the fish before actually seasoning and dredging, just because with mustard, it primarily helps to keep the moisture in.
Yes.
And then it also takes away the fishy smell that you typically get with like a catfish, or maybe if you like frying, tilapia or a trout or a snapper. It takes that smell and that flavor away, so that you really get all the flavors that is really applied on the bone.
So some people will soak their catfish in milk, right? So using the mustard is a very similar, like, functional thing. So like you can use mustard on it to help keep it moist, or you can use the milk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so essentially what you're doing first is you're really combining the cornmeal and you're combining the all-purpose flour. So combine both. What I'll do is I'll typically get a small dish.
All right.
Or a teaspoon. And I'll just go about evenly mixing through all the cornmeal and all-purpose flour.
Would you say that's like equal parts cornmeal and flour,
Equal.
or just kind of up to your taste?
It's up to your taste. If you want a more crunchier batter, then you will go to the yellow cornmeal over the actual AP flour.
Yeah.
If you want a soft fry, then the all-purpose flour works best. So for me, I like a mix of a little bit of crunch and a little bit of savory and soft fry as well. So I do half and half. But if you prefer the hard crunch, the cornmeal is perfect.
And that's just plain yellow cornmeal, right?
Yeah.
That's not like a cornmeal mix.
No,
right?
it's plain. It's plain.
Plain.
And so this is kind of the consistency that it'll come out to. And so we're like, well, wait, we haven't added the seasonings yet. So we do have the seasoning blend, and all you're doing is you're really simply applying it in. Now with the seasoning blend itself, I really will just add, again, maybe a third a cup of the blend. Mix it in to ensure that all the seasoning is mixed throughout.
And you should see it, right? You should be able to see the seasoning.
You should be able to see the seasoning mixed in. So like I know I see the parsley, I see the red pepper, I see the black pepper. If you don't see it, then that means that you may have put too much of the flour, too much of yellow cornmeal, and not enough of the seasoning mixed in. So always gauge it for sure. And then the next step, which is a fun step, you get your hands a little bit dirty, is being able to dredge it, right? So we do have some of the finished mix here. And so
it's gonna be like shake and bake style.
it's gonna be shake and bake style. That's
just save
old
you some
school.
dishes. Like we don't need 4 pans. We're gonna do it.
It's old
Less
school
dishes.
too. So, growing up, this is how I grew up. This is how I learned from, my mom and my great grandmother and my grandmothers as well. Is to do it in this traditional style. But we also have 2 beaten large eggs. So if, like let's say, hey, I want to, use a few medium eggs. How many do I use? Use 3. Whatever you have available to you, that's what you can use in order to be able to still complete the dish at a high level.
Yeah, and the amount doesn't matter as much as just having enough.
Yeah.
To make sure all your fish is coated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then we just simply go through that process of being able to dredge it, batter it, and then it'll be good to go.
Yeah.
So we're ready?
Yeah, you want to
Awesome.
mix the new into the one we mixed already, and then you can use that bag.
Absolutely.
There you go.
So what we'll do is mix the new in.
You can smell it. Like you can smell the Cajun seasoning in the mix.
Yeah. Then I'll add a little bit more of our Cajun spice blend. I'm not going to use all of it. I'm going to save some of it for the end. Awesome. And then what we'll do is give it a light shake. Open it back up.
You do the same thing I do.
Yeah.
Roll it over on the outside.
Because what you want to do is after you dredge it in the egg, put it in the actual flour and cornmeal mix, you don't want the egg to be dripping everywhere. So in order to prevent that, make sure that you have something secure where you can go ahead and drop it in.
Yeah.
All right. So essentially, I really just get started with that. But I start with the mustard first.
So the mustard not only helps with keeping it moist and blending in with the fish flavor, it also adds an acid, which adds to the flavor. So when you're thinking about using less salt, having some acidic components into your seasoning helps to boost up the flavor without having like a ton of salt.
Absolutely.
So having that baseline is it adds the salt first. It's like first level, and then you're gonna layer it on top, right?
And then layer. Yep. So essentially, I'm just rubbing it in. and make sure you rub it in thoroughly. You really want to make sure that every part of the catfish is coated. And for the mustard itself, I may apply maybe half of a teaspoon to each piece. You really don't need a lot depending on the size of the fillet. So if you're getting a full piece, like a full fillet of catfish, then you really want to apply close to maybe a full tablespoon just because of the size. You want to apply to the back of the fillet as well. And you want to make sure that everything is essentially good to go.
But it's one of those things that you don't really have to measure it exactly like you did. You just covered the top of it and kept it moving.
Cover the top, and when you cover the top, evenly spread what's on top, on the bottom.
On both sides, yeah.
On both sides.
I'm a big fan of mustard. I love this combination.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So now,
after you dredge it, are you going to put it back on this pan? Oh, let's get your baking dish. Actually.
absolutely. So after we're done dredging it, essentially, we're going to go ahead and put it on our baking tray. So since we're doing the oven fried option, then you want to start off with some parchment paper. That's important to make sure that it does not stick, right? Because
and easy cleanup.
Yeah.
We're all about easy cleanup here.
Easy cleanup. First, I promise you.
First and foremost.
Easy cleanup. Awesome. So now we have our fillets, right? So you see that it's spread out evenly. So now what I'm doing is I'm putting it in the egg mixture. And don't be afraid to actually dunk it into the egg mixture. It'll be all right. Trust me. All right. Drain off the excess egg. And then go ahead and dunk it in your batter, right? Do the same process for the other fillets that you have.
Update on the grits. The milk and the water is boiling, so I'm going to add the grits now. We couldn't get it all in the shot.
Awesome. So now that we have our fillets essentially in our mix of flour and cornmeal, go ahead and close up your Ziploc bag. And if you're saying, hey, Mac, like, I don't have enough Ziploc bags, man. What else do I use? You can use a full tray. You can be very old school and use a grocery bag. That's very old school. That works the same way, same effect. Anything that you can find where you can have the shake and bake effect, it'll be perfect. It'll still work. All right. So don't be afraid.
This will be a good opportunity to get the kiddos involved. Right?
Oh yes, the kids.
Anything that you can shake and like be aggressive with.
The kids will love it. They'll get an instant 5-minute workout.
There you go.
For us, it'll be a good 30 seconds.
So like any opportunity that doesn't add stress to your life that you can give your kids to participate in the cooking will like increase their chances of tasting it because they have their skin in the game. You know what I mean?
And then they'll be inspired to make the dish themselves.
There you go. Is that how it happened with you?
That's exactly how it happened with me. I started very young in the kitchen.
Yes.
The first time I got in the kitchen was when I was about 5 years old. But then when I really started cooking dishes by myself in the kitchen, I was about 12 years old. And so my mom was a very, very big influence for me. Getting in the kitchen early and being able to be very efficient in the kitchen and not have a situation where I'm waiting to eat or I'm waiting on someone else to fix a meal for me, prepare a meal for me. I understand the importance of being in the kitchen and how far it can take you. And so
absolutely.
That's what I'm doing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
right.
So I'm gonna spray the parchment paper first.
Yeah.
We're gonna treat this kind of like if it was going in the air fryer, right?
Yeah.
So if you got an air fryer, this is a perfect dish to put in the air fryer. So we're gonna spray the bottom first. So it's got some oil that it's gonna sit down in, and then once we get the fish out of the mix and put it in the pan, we're gonna spray it again, right?
Yeah.
That's what makes it crispy in the oven, is when you have some fat on top, but it is much, much less fat than if you were going to fry it. So there is a time and a place for frying things, and for heart health's sake, little less frying, a little more trying to figure out where you can get the crunch that you're looking for with less oil. That's all I'm trying to say. The grits are looking really good over here. It doesn't take long for them to come together.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So I want you all, if you can smell this.
Oh, I can smell the tanginess of the mustard and the savory, like the garlic really comes through.
Yeah. So if you all can see this, see the fillets hotting in there. Let's go ahead and prepare them, right? So before you put them in the oven, make sure you preheat your oven to 425. That's super important, just so that you can save some time, especially if you're preparing dinner for the family. You want to save time and maximize it, again, especially if you have kids, for sure.
Exactly. Like, that's going to be the very first thing you do when you walk in the kitchen. That and, like, season your fish and let it hang out while you start your grits. It's like, what takes the longest? Start there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And then all I'm doing is making sure that some of the excess breading is off. You don't want super caked up catfish, because then you'll taste bits and pieces of the cornmeal that you don't want to taste. So ensuring that, okay, I have a full, good, coated piece of fish, that's important. Because then it'll help to evenly cook as well. All right. So, all right. So essentially, this is how it should look. Perfectly breaded. All the seasonings are inside. You don't see the mustard at all, because again, the mustard is really just, it's helping to keep the moisture locked in. And so it also helps to keep the batter on as well. So one thing that you'll notice is that once we do the final touch,
That one comes out in a stream, doesn't it?
Yeah. So this is what it should look like before it goes in. And the oven will it'll do more of the work. So, ready?
Yeah, we're ready to go.
Awesome.
So 425 degrees for 20 to 30 minutes. It's going to be dependent on the size of your catfish fillets. So if you've got like the whole half of the fish, like the whole fillet, and it's a little bit thicker, it's going to go for a little bit longer. But we have these they're like basically like half a fillet.
Like half of a fillet.
So it might be closer to 20 minutes, but just pay attention to how brown it's getting.
Yeah. Keep your eyes on that. And then if you see the edges browning as well, then that's a sign that you're in good shape. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to keep it in too long to the point where you're losing the moisture in the fish itself.
All right. What's next?
All right. So next, we saw the Ovenfried.
Yep.
Now we want to work with Blackened.
Blackened.
So the same catfish that we're using, but instead we're focusing on the Cajun blend heavy. So here we already have a few pieces that pre-season. We're going to season them a little bit more. Essentially, we're doing the same steps. So we're going through the steps of applying the seasoning, still applying a little bit of mustard for color, and then we'll see the result once it comes out. Awesome.
All right. So I learned something new from you.
Okay.
I didn't know exactly what blackened meant. I mean, I've had dishes of like blackened fish, chicken. I've had all of that before, but I didn't know why it was blackened. And it's just based on a nice coating of the seasoning that you're using. And that kind of gets a little bit charred, if you will, in the cooking process.
So in the process, it gets a good char. So people prefer it because it's not pan-seared. So when it's blackened, that means that the spices get a chance to caramelize. And so you really get the full effect and full flavor of the actual seasoning itself. And with fish, one key tip is do not over-season fish. Don't over-season fish because the seasoning through fish compared to chicken and beef, it seeps through 10 times faster. So like if you're cooking, like let's say a giant, large fillet of catfish, it still seep through fast because of the tendons and the muscle in the actual fish and the way that it's essentially prepared. And with catfish, and like let's say if you're cooking cod's a flaky fish, so due to it being a flaky fish, then it can really seep through faster. With catfish or any type of fish, it'll do the same. But specifically like a cod, or if you're having, red grouper or black grouper, whatever you're preparing, a red snapper is one of my favorites. Essentially the same. Don't overseason it.
This was a really cool conversation that we had. We were like literally looking at the meat itself. So like fish, you can see the spaces between the muscles, but like chicken, you can't. Chicken is like a solid piece, right? So if you wanted to get the seasoning in the chicken, you need to give it some cuts, and then you could like seep the seasoning down into it.
Yeah.
But with the fish, you can already see the separation between the muscles, and we both had like a that's why moment when we were talking about it.
No, for sure, because it's really amazing. Because I say that because trial and error, right? So I've had some share of past mistakes where I've overseasoned fish. And it's been a little bit overpowering because I paired it with a side that was already savory in and of itself. Right?
Yeah,
so to be able to balance out the flavors is important based on what you're
making. Right? Quick look here. There's the sweet potato grits. I just put the sweet potatoes in there, so it already looks like cheese grits. And then we're gonna add some cheese, so it's gonna be even better.
Awesome. And so see here that getting a good coating, good lather of the mustard and pre-Cajun mix on there. This is really how it should look prior to another coat of seasoning. Right. So when you're preparing blackened catfish, if you prefer a cast iron, cast irons are perfect because when you turn the cast iron on, and I love using butter, so maybe a little bit of butter, a little bit of minced garlic before I actually place it in. Place it on medium heat. Don't start off with too high heat because again, you're dealing with a delicate piece of fish. So you really don't want to burn it from the start. But start with a medium heat just so that you can level out the flavors once it starts searing. All
right. I guess it's gonna take a second to get heated up.
No, for sure. And so here is our butter and oil mixture. So essentially, I love using a mix of butter and oil. If you only have butter, or if you have margarine, which some people may only have margarine in their kitchen, that works perfectly fine as well.
Which, from a heart healthy perspective, you can get the flavor from the butter that you're looking for, but use less of it, and then add that liquid oil to balance it out. So first you get enough fat for the cooking process, but your liquid oil, which is like It's going to stay liquid at room temperature. That's going to be better for your heart and your arteries than, say, a fat that stays solid at room temperature. And that has to do with the amount of saturated fat that's in the oil or the butter, that kind of thing. So if you think about like lard is pig fat, and it's going to stay solid at room temperature, right? Because it's going to have a lot of the saturated fat, while your canola oil, your olive oil, like all of those vegetable-based, they're mostly plant-based, actually.
Most of them
that are oils. They're going to have much less saturated fat, so it's going to help you out. So still use a little bit of your butter, but then even it out with some oil. And here's your sweet potato grits. Looks like cheese grits.
Awesome. So we essentially have our fillets that are ready. So again, make sure that you don't over season them. Our heat is getting there. So feeling good.
All right. You ready to have them in there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or do you feel like it needs another minute or so? Because we can take a look at our other final product if you want. You want to do that?
Let's do that, yeah.
Okay, let's do that. So as we do with TV Magic, we have a final product ready to go for you so you can see it. And it smells so good. So this is round one of the oven fried, not chicken. That's catfish. Sorry. It smells so good. So did we do like a full 25 minutes on this first round?
So for this first round, we did do a full 25 minutes. And what we noticed was that, again, we wanted to maintain and keep that moisture, make sure that we keep the flavor. But we really didn't want to dry out the fish. The fish was the priority. So in order to keep it flaky, keep it very, very moist on the inside, then we really had to focus on being able to provide just a good crust.
Yeah, that's the goal.
That's the goal.
If you're calling it oven fried, it needs to be crispy, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's got some pretty high standards to look up to.
Absolutely.
Oh, and you see the little crispy edges. Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
So take the excess off. I'll just go ahead and go in here. When you plate it, I prefer plating it right on top.
Oh, we have something else to go on top.
We do.
For a little extra fancy, got some chopped parsley.
Chopped parsley. All right. And then this should be the outcome.
Yes.
So now I'm going to decorate a little bit. All right.
All right, I'm going to go for it.
Cool.
So there's the green that you were looking for.
That's the green that you want.
The green, you just need a little bit to balance it all out.
And then we have a little bit of our leftover Cajun blend seasoning. Just go ahead and sprinkle it on top. There we go.
Oh, deep.
Awesome.
I'm so hungry. I'll wait. Okay, I bet that pan is hot enough
It's
now.
definitely hot now, for sure. Absolutely. So what I'm doing now is I'm going ahead and adding the oil and butter mixture to the pan. So be careful because it is going to be hot.
Oh,
You can hear the sizzle
you
already.
can see it. Okay, you can see it now that the oil is in there. Also, another reason to have the oil with the butter is that the butter can burn really fast because it has the milk solids in it, right? It's not just fat. So when you have the oil, it helps to buffer it and it won't burn super quick.
Definitely helps to balance it out, for sure.
Otherwise, you get like brown butter,
Yeah.
which is delicious, but then it burns real fast.
Burns real fast. All right. So when you're handling any type of pot or pan, always make sure you wear protective wear. So gloves. If you're going in the oven, make sure you wear your mitt. I've made plenty of mistakes where, like, hey, I'll just get a quick towel. Oh, wait a second. No. Made a mistake. So
Safety first.
safety is always first. All right. So now we're about to add our fillets in. I just essentially put it front side first. Press down. That sound is what we want. We want that sound. We want the sear. If you don't hear that sear from the start, that's not hot enough. All right.
I'm gonna do this, and then we can slide this up to that burner. I think we'll be able. There we go. There it is. Now we can see it. Cool. Okay. Great. Doesn't take very long to cook this blackened catfish.
No, depending on the size, I would say at least 3 to 5 minutes on both sides. Again, with it being a very, very hot cast iron skillet, easily 3 minutes at the max because of the size. Now, if it's a bigger fillet, then give it at least 7 minutes on both sides just to cook evenly and just to give it the color and char that we're looking for.
Yeah. All right. I think we should just taste this while we're waiting because,
Oh, yeah.
for one, I'm real hungry, and two, we worked a lot for this.
We did. We definitely did.
We worked a lot for this.
Oh, my goodness.
You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. It looks so good. Whoops. Gotta get a little bit of all of it. There we go. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The dog. It's got a good spicy kick to it because of the cayenne in the seasoning mix.
Oh, yeah.
The grits are not overly seasoned, but it balances out really well with the really seasoned fish.
Sounds out very well. Very well. Which is what we
I'm
want.
sorry I took that from you.
We didn't want, oh, that's good. We didn't want a super spicy piece of fish. We wanted it very balanced, and that's what we got.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the key thing with doing blackened fish as well, you don't want to flip it a lot of times either, because with it being super delicate, it can easily break. And that's one thing that you do not want, is you do not want the fish breaking in half on you. One key tip I learned a long time ago. Yeah.
As all fish, just about all fish fit into that like rule of thumb. You really want to flip it just one time, right? Otherwise, it's gonna. The more it cooks, like the more those little muscles separate from each other. You want it to be flaky, but you don't want it to do that in your pan.
No, not at all. That's not a good feeling.
Well, we do have a final product to show you, as we do.
Absolutely.
So while this one's cooking away, let's show you. Here is the blackened catfish that we already prepared. So you can see that it's still nice and juicy. And it smells so good. I'm going to serve that up over some sweet potato grits as well. Is there anything else that you would pair with the catfish and grits? What do you think?
Well, I will pair it with it directly.
Yeah, or you're like, no, this is on its own the way it needs to be.
I have done some creative things in the past. where if I do want to add a vegetable
Yeah.
on the side, I've done some lemon pepper broccolini.
Ooh.
So broccolini is one of my favorites just because you really have the ability to maneuver it because it really doesn't have an initial flavor. So sometimes, I'll steam it and then I'll toss it in a mixture of butter, lemon pepper seasoning, minced garlic, and a little bit of maybe a little bit of Tony's,
Okay.
or
Yeah.
some type of Cajun seasoning that I have, and then I'll be good to go. Yeah.
So broccolini is like long, skinny broccoli, right?
Long, skinny broccoli.
Yeah.
Very flavorful, very tender when you make it the right way. It pairs well. Or if you have some asparagus that you want to pair it well with, depending on time of day that you're eating it. I know I love brunch, so being able to pair a delicious savory meal while getting our vegetables and then having an awesome drink to probably pair it with, maybe a peach mint lemonade, right? Something that really has that Georgia sweet with a little bit of the mint.
Yeah, that sounds delicious. That sounds so good.
Yeah.
Will you serve us up real quick?
Absolutely.
We gotta flip it though. Prioritize the one in the pan.
So
Obviously.
we already flipped a few of them. Okay. So you see that it's charring a little bit.
Yeah, you can see that pretty well.
So we're almost done here.
Where did my, here we go. I'm gonna pause some here. There we go.
Okay, so we already have a few that are ready, right?
Yep.
So let's go ahead and plate. Again, I love plating right in the middle, on top of the grits.
So you get a scoop of everything.
Just
Every
everything
bite.
and everybody.
Let's go. Top it off with some parsley.
You get the parsley going.
That's beautiful.
That's awesome.
Let's take a bite. For you, sir.
Okay.
I like this one because it has more juice with the seasoned juice, if you will, than the fried one. But the fried one was equally delicious.
Oh yeah. I
I
love the Blackened. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
That is so good.
That's
so good. I expected it to be good, but yum. That's really good.
Okay.
Okay, friends. Thank you so much for joining us today. I want to leave you with a heart healthy tip when it comes to our classic foods that are feeding our soul. Sometimes we need to feed our heart too, right? So let's try to fry a little bit less during the week. How about that? So we can fry on Sundays and we can have a baked option, which is just as crispy and delicious as if you were frying it. Honestly, a lot less cleanup, right? So thank you so much, Chef, for being here. This was fantastic. We had so much fun.
Absolutely.
I hope you all will try Mac's seasoning blend or try this Ovenfried or Blackened Catfish. You can find the recipes for today from Chef in the QR code on the screen here. So you're just going to pull out your phone like you're going to take a picture of it. A little link pops up, click that, and it'll take you to the resources.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Any closing thoughts you want to share?
When you're in the kitchen, enjoy being in the kitchen. Have a great time. One thing about it is, growing up, I learned to have fun in the kitchen.
Yeah.
If you're playing music, blasting music, that's my favorite. 90s R&B, always, okay? Or 90s hip hop, all right? Or
it's gonna be upbeat.
Right,
Right.
like Heavy D and the Boys, or if you're rocking with TLC, whatever your vibe is, turn on some music, get in the kitchen, find ways to get your family involved. So if your kids want them involved, get everyone to really enjoy being in the kitchen, because it's a great experience when you can create for yourself, honestly.
Absolutely. Nothing about making it a family affair,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Whoever
Absolutely.
your family is, it can be your friends.
Absolutely.
So awesome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for this episode. We'll be back in a couple weeks for March, which is National Nutrition Month. So we got some cool stuff coming along then. Yeah, take care. See you later.